afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to our Ike Kaiaulu Talk Story series. I'm super excited today because it's kind of a, well, I don't know, it's kind of fun having a friend on. So I want to remind everybody that this series is held on the second Friday of every month during our academic semesters, and we've got a bunch of people coming up. And I just wanted to let you know about it so that you know when you can schedule your next Ike Kaiaulu Talk Story session. Today I'd like to welcome Linda Kuo, who you can see on this poster, which I'm sure is what drew you to today's talk story session. And I want to welcome her and this wonderful title of dance, talking about dance. And dance as a tool for fostering cultural identity and resilience. Just the title alone sounds really cool. Anything that has cultural identity in it, I'm there. And then now we've got dance and cultural identity in the same title is really, really cool. So this is Linda, and I'm going to turn it over to her. But before I do that, I just want to say a couple things. Let me close this out real quick. Linda and I have known each other for a really long time. Well, like, is it 10 years, 11 years? I don't know. When I met Linda, I had a 3-year-old who's now 13. So I guess you could do the math. And I met her in Chinatown. And my husband and I were doing the Oahu Fringe Festival, and Linda had a dance studio. It was called The Loft. Is that correct?
It was actually when I first met you, it was the Art Smith. So it's the Loft on Smith Street. That was the very first Fringe, and then the next year we started our own thing called the Loading Zone.
The Loading Zone. I was like,
yeah, so it's on the corner of Smith and Hotel. But yeah, and then we kind of did, when we did Fringe for a few years, so
yeah, Oahu Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
And it was good fun because my son at the time, the 3-year-old with little boy with really long hair, had lots of fun breakdancing and dancing around all over the place with Linda, and it was good fun. And so 10 years, jump forward 10 years, and now Linda still has Dancers Unlimited, but it's kind of morphed into something really, really cool. And so I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about how she went from Chinatown, local girl, who's now talking to us from the East Coast, but I always forget where.
New Jersey, but I just got home from New York City, from Brooklyn. So
yeah,
we are rehearsal.
You have to tell us how in the world a local girl got from Chinatown to New Jersey. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can tell us a little bit about what that means, that title means about dance and cultural identity, resilience, and we'll figure out how you moved from there to there and there to there. So there you go.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Noe. It's always good to catch up with you. So hi, everybody. I am Linda Kuo, and I was born in Taiwan, moved to Hawaii when I was 3 years old. So basically grew up there, then moved to Boston for school, for college, and then New York. And I thought I was going to work in advertising in New York. Got a job and everything. And then last minute, got a phone call from my auntie, who was working at Broadway Dance Center at the time, was like, oh, we have an audition today for the professional training program. You want to come? And I was like, yeah, I have nothing to do before I start work, So I went to the training program, got in, and it was like a full scholarship. And when I was little, when I was watching like all the cool music videos in the 90s, And I was like, yeah, I want to be a backup dancer. And I remember specifically, I wanted to be Madonna's backup dancer after watching Vogue, because I was thought I was like, the coolest thing ever. And I had no idea what voguing was, then. It was like, I was like, so then I was like, yeah, sure. And growing up with a Chinese mom, she was like, I didn't tell her I had quit my job to be a dancer. she would have just, yeah. And when she found out, she like didn't speak to me for like 3 months. This is after I had already gone on tour and everything. But anyway, so that was like a little background of how I became a dancer. I think in a way dance has always chosen me. I didn't intend on moving to New York. I know a lot of people who are like, I'm gonna go to New York, be a dancer, or LA, and go through the audition process. um I got really lucky in a way where I never really had to audition. I always had really good friends who got me signed with agencies and I think it has everything to do with like what this the talk stories about like Pilina, right? Like building Pilina. So a lot of it is through relationship building, through who we know and what we want to do, what we're passionate about. So I danced in New York for a while with different through the professional training program. I was able to be connected with a lot of very well-known choreographers, either is in the contemporary dance world or in like the commercial world as a backup dancer. In 2009,
Who did you tour with?
So I toured with an off-Broadway show called Katrina, A Whole Lot of Water. So it's basically about that's like my first taste of combining social justice conversations with performing arts. Because growing up, my exposure to performing arts is very much like it's entertainment. Um, Even hula, like we talked about, hula as like a cultural heritage, but not so much on how systemic racism is contributes to the how we practice our art forms. So I'll talk about that later. But that show was the first show I toured with that truly stood out for me, and I was able to be a soloist. I was Hurricane Katrina. Like, so I was like, oh yeah, great role, but I feel bad. Yeah, and then I also did a lot of like commercial work. So I danced with Faith Hill, Daddy Yankee, so different commercial stuff. And I got to this. Am I showing my age? When Dr. Dre Beats, the headphones came out, I was able to choreograph for that, and somehow that took me to China as well. So it's just like all different things. I think a typical dancer's life is you just kind of go from gig to gig to gig and try to make money as you go and surviving the big city. Yeah, in 2009, life circumstances took me back home to Hawaii to be with my family. So that's also when I don't know if you remember Furlough Fridays happened.
Yes.
Yeah, so so for the younger folks who are in college, so that's basically when DOE like cut budget, yeah. So they cancel school on Fridays for a few months. But that's also when around the time I came home. And then some of my other friends that I grew up dancing with, they also came home around the same time. And they were professional dancers like in LA. I was in New York, they were in LA. So we're kind of like, well, like the kids have nothing to do. And originally we wanted to work with the schools directly to be like, hey, we're willing to volunteer to teach some classes for the kids. And then they were asking us for hundreds of dollars because of just different people. Apparently you have to go through different unions because school is not open. So just like it's a learning curve. We had no idea the hoops we had to jump through just to teach free classes for kids. so yeah, we're trying to offer you a service, right? But that's not how it happened. So we ended up going back to our communities and going to talk to the different dance studios, because most dance studios, they don't have their regular classes until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So during the day, school hours, they're open. So we ended up partnering up with so this studio doesn't exist anymore, but Aloha Dance Center, and then we just put together local volunteer teachers to teach these free classes for kids, like just all day. If you want to dance all day, just come. And that was the intention that for Dancers Unlimited. It was not I didn't imagine it to be anything bigger. It was just very much service oriented. And then from there, we started dancing and performing together, the group of us. And then we had our friends from LA and New York. They came because everybody want to go to Hawaii, right? So they're like, oh yeah, they're doing this free thing for kids. That's amazing. So we started getting like celebrity choreographers to come and teach these free classes. And they would just fly themselves out because they want to, they're our friends. They want to hang out with us in Hawaii. And the news started covering us because we're flying celebrity, like the celebrity choreographers are coming down. So these are like people who choreograph for Beyonce, for J-Lo, Chris Brown, Rihanna. So that's kind of like our quote unquote claim to fame. And then from there, we got invited to perform at the Spalding House, the Contemporary Museum, their gala. And then we started performing in Chinatown, the street festivals. And then at the time, because I grew up in Chinatown, like going with my grandma to Chinatown. And I was like, wait, art and dancing in Chinatown? Like, that's not lion dance? Like, so that was actually really new to me, after all these years on the mainland.
Yeah.
And then going back to my hip hop roots too, like, because I was doing commercial and contemporary, but like going back to the streets, to jumping into the ciphers and like seeing the b-boys, and eventually being invited into their circle. That was really cool in the early years of DU, just literally hitting the streets. And from the streets, we ended up going on tour to China. All within a year of DU starting as a company. So nothing was planned. It was a lot of learning curve. I had no idea how to run a tour, how to do a production. There were a lot of hiccups, but also amazing people that helped me out along the way, and kind of built DU to what it is. And then I just want to shout out to our co-founder, Emily Hackworth. So Emily started DU with me. She was the one that back in the days, we had these envelope and we have flyers about First Friday classes, and we'd write it down on these envelopes with like magic markers. And we wrote so many envelopes that we're like, oh my God, I think we're getting high from the markers, So just shout out to Emily, and she has her own studio now in Honolulu as well, Ecstatic. So yeah, so even though like everyone kind of, we always talk about DU being the canoe, and the canoe kind of just like go wherever nature, the spirit
so cool.
to go. Yeah. And it's different people jump on and off the canoe. And we also have people who have been on the canoe with us for like 13 years. We're turning 13 this year. So yeah. So that's the story. Oh yeah, and I ended up back in New York and in 2014 with the guidance of so I have a lot of different like Eva birds, like my kumu in my life, who basically my teacher in the street dance community, namely Sekou Haru and Marjorie. Marjorie passed away, but those are the two who are like, why don't you just start your company here in New York too? We'll help you. So
and you're not seeking it out. It just kind of like, let's just do that too.
Yeah. So I think and then later on, I eventually I realized that I think this path chose me for a greater reason. Dancing is fun, but there is a greater like kuleana that I guess I am blessed with to have.
Yes, you are. I've watched. It's pretty amazing. So it's really cool to think about how dance wasn't something that you sought out. And like you said, there's so many people that, are so driven, that are headed for dance, and dance kept choosing you, and how you have kind of morphed it into, or maybe actually from day one, it's kind of been mission driven. And it's really cool to see what missions that you kind of have adopted along the way. Do you want to talk about there's a lot of things happening for you right now, but I guess our reconnection most recently,
Yeah.
At the retreat. So maybe a little bit about the retreat would be
Yeah, definitely. So recently, our company advisor, our Kumu Ali Aveao, who's this amazing magic manifester, and also a Kumu Hula Hawaiian cultural practitioner among her many, many titles. She helped our company. So we worked together since 2010. She's one of the very key advisors of the company, the Eva Birds, for the for our canoe, and she organized this retreat called Movement Destination, and then is part of our company's practice in terms of re-indigenizing. So this exploration, I think it's always been there, but we don't know how to identify it or say it or clearly define what it is, what our mission is until probably 2016 and 17. I want to say when Trump became president, and there's a lot of things that happened on our border, and a lot of xenophobia, a lot of things that we just started, naturally we in rehearsal, because dance is such a expression in DU anyway. Like we talk about authenticity a lot. We dance from the heart, and it's hard to dance from the heart when you don't know where your heart lies or where you're rooted. So there's a continued conversation, and then that inevitably we started having to talk about racism, and then Mauna Kea, the movement blew up. And one of our dancers in Hawaii, Keala, she was actually on the Mauna for, I want to say 7 or 8 months with the Kiai. She was literally just up there. She packed up her life and just went up there. Had no idea. I think she thought she was going to be there for a couple of days. Ended up staying for like months. So I think through her, that was like a really key connection for us in New York too, to become a part of the movement. Went to Indigenous Peoples Day gathering. When Antipoa case came to New York, we also got to meet and talk story with her. And our New York company actually went up to the Mauna twice. So I think that just planted the seeds into the larger conversation that we had in February. How we start talking about decolonization, righting the wrongs, right? How do we, and then it's hard to do, and we realize a lot of it, and this is through working with Ali throughout these years, we realize, like, through systemic like racism, injustice, colonization, a lot of the trauma was disconnection. So this is where Indigenous people and also settlers alike, right? And so like I think for me, I didn't grow up like as an Asian American. And it's interesting because every May through the Asian American, the AAPI month, I get so many interviews just for the month of May, only the month of May, interestingly. And I was like, great, I love sharing my story. But at the same time, I also feel like I don't really identify with Asian American experience because I didn't grow up as a minority. And I grew up also in Hawaii being Asian, which, to be honest, is very privileged, and I didn't have to experience like racism the way Asian Americans had to experience. So, and at the same time, I was very sheltered also from the racism that was actively happening in Hawaii. And the effect of colonization and militarization. So all of this became topics of exploration since 2016 in DU. It's heavy, and which is when Ali came in. We had to bring that healing and light into that heavy discussion. Otherwise, we don't know how to move forward, because we get stuck when we focus so much on just the trauma itself and have no way of healing that trauma. So Movement Destination was designed to incorporate, to really center Native Hawaiian wisdom and cultural practices, to first to connect with each other and to connect with the land that we call home, or the land that people would like to visit, and we're kind of like, people are going to come anyway. We should at least try to have a Pono way of, for them to learn. And that's something that from the DU New York people, our New York company, because, and then it's always like a thing, like they love visiting Hawaii. They want to go to Hawaii, but at the same time, we're also like, man, we don't want to take up space and resources, right? So And part of my personal thing is as Taiwanese American or Taiwanese, I don't know, American, but a person who grew up in Hawaii, who I yeah, and then it became like I'm still in this reflection process of what is my kuleana as a settler, as a child of immigrant, right? Like in a way I didn't choose to grow up in Hawaii, and then my grandparents were also like displaced from their homeland too. um so it's like, well, where is home? Where do we belong? And then I think through this program, I still don't have an answer, but at least it offered a pathway of really looking at how Hawaiians have held on to their culture, their connection with the land in the face of all of these ongoing challenges that are still happening.
Yeah.
And then it was really cool because I remember every single kumu comment. They're like, okay, this is my lineage, and they can trace their ancestry back for like 7, 8 generations. I was like, wow, I can go back like 2 generations.
Probably
um,
more common, right? Of most
yeah,
people. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely a different way of looking at the world.
Yeah, so and I'm so glad you came because I got to know you a lot better outside of Oahu Fringe, and really I think sharing that healing space together to work through our individual challenges and also work towards that collective healing. Um yeah, and I feel like I'm not even doing this program justice. It's just such an amazing program that Ali'i put together. And yeah,
It
it's
was
hard to
amazing.
explain.
It was.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me if you're if the point was to reconnect to the land and to think about healing. It was amazing to me how everybody had healing to do. Um, every single person that came had their own way of healing and reconnecting, being a kind of like a portal to be able to do that healing. And
Mhm.
it was so different for every single person.
Yeah.
But yet, as a whole, we were able to come together and really think about what kind of healing we needed. And the land was
Yeah.
really so instrumental in
Yeah.
making that
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. I
that's
think,
awesome.
yeah. And then being able to connect with all the amazing kumu that were there and and just learning. I think just their presence alone was just amazing. And then being able to like really be hands-on with restoration, restoring the
Yeah.
land water. And I remember um so when we did the limu restoration, we made the limu lei with kinohi. So it's really cool. We're at Kaiona Beach, and then it was my I still make fun of our New York dancers to this day. So because we had to make the lei limu, tie them around a rock, swim out into the ocean, and put them in the water. New Yorkers don't like walking on rocky surfaces, and then there's rocks. It's like, like that's the point. There's rocks. And it was
Right.
really fun to watch them like go, overcome that fear of ocean, fear of not being comfortable, and then go into the deep water swimming with a rock, which they have never done before. It's hard and it's scary for
Yeah.
people who are not comfortable with water. And then they did it. And then fast forward, anyway, last month I went back to Kaiona Beach with my little one. And I was like, we just went there to catch a sunrise, And then it was really cool. And I was like telling him about what we did that day with Kinohi. And then we saw this crowd coming. And I was like, oh my God, tourists coming. No, it wasn't tourists. It was they have a baby, like a Honu release thing ceremony. So that was the day when Sea Light Park released like 5 2-year-old Honu that basically they were born on that beach in Kaiona. So then they're releasing them. So they did a whole ceremony. And I was like, oh, that was like such a full circle moment because February we were just like making late limo, and then he was telling us about the pahonu over there. Like it's literally it's like the turtle I don't know if shelter is the right word. Um yeah, and then I was able to watch my keiki like experience that, to see the Honu being released back. So that was super cool. So that was kind of like that little thing is like a demonstration of how magical that the February experience was, because the healing continues. It didn't just
Yeah,
stop at the end of the event.
definitely. And doing something as simple as wrapping a limule around a rock and taking it out, putting it into the reef was
Mhm.
so symbolic so
Yeah,
that the turtle could then come and feed on it. And
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
you're right about the difficulty of swimming with a rock. I mean,
yeah.
I'm comfortable in the ocean, and swimming with a rock was a new experience. And so it
Makes
was really,
me
really
laugh.
almost, well, I mean, immediately it connects you to that place
Yeah,
because you experienced that place and you can assume that that rock is still there feeding the turtles. So it is really cool that you had that reconnect or full circle moment to go
yeah.
back to that place. And that's happened with a lot of the stories too that we learned during that week, uh,
Hmm.
and going to various places, learning about um, some of the mythology, or I hate that word mythology, but the Hawaiian stories,
Yeah,
mo'olelo, that um, that we may not have learned growing up, or we didn't hear growing up. Maybe it was told to us, but we didn't hear it. But as adults, we rediscover some of those stories, and I think that's the magic of Hawaiian studies,
mhm.
learning in college to those who didn't hear or didn't listen, and then connecting it to place. So I think that in itself is healing as well. That is
Yeah,
cool. So I
yeah,
like that you are finding missions, or missions are finding you. Um, I know that you, meaning Dancers Unlimited, um, got a grant from uh, recently for the Edible Tales program,
yeah,
and you got a
yeah,
grant to do that. Can you tell me what Edible Tales is?
yeah. Of course, it's
It sounds yummy.
it's super ono. It's so it started in 2020 in the thick of the pandemic when we're all in isolation. And I know everyone lost their job, most people. And with
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
dancers, and as a dance company, we lost 2.5 years worth of work, canceled overnight. And as you guys
Ah,
probably know, unemployment didn't kick in for months. And then there are also a lot of dancers who are just, for various reasons. And then, this was also like after George Floyd thing happened in New York City, there were protests everywhere, rightfully so. But it's heavy when you're involved in protesting on the front line for a long time. It drains your mana, and you need to replenish it. So I think that's when the call for edible tales happened. And we're just like, we started talking about food a lot more at a weekly check. So Ali was holding space for company check-in. She was donating her time to just make sure the company members are doing okay, working her magic, making sure we stay grounded and connected. So through those conversations are talking more about food, because either we're cooking more at home, or people were separated from their families, especially our international dancers.
right.
And so it's hard, so food became a thing of topic about just nourishment, reconnecting. And so we started having monthly virtual meetups on Zoom, just to talk about food, what food means to us. And it has not it had nothing to do with dance at a time. It would just, let's just talk about food, and maybe make us some moves, silly movement, about what we're talking about food. So like we talk about spaghetti, we'll do like a spaghetti dance. It's just so it's not, because we're trying also to reconnect with audience. Um, and I know sometimes it's scary to dance with professional dancers, even though everybody is a dancer, right? So we're really trying to create that healing space that's welcoming for dancers, and I don't want to say dancers and people who don't think they can dance. And then and then our dancers started taking turns picking the topics that matter. With Hawaii, it's interesting because I know the memory probably still is fresh. Um, I remember the Hawaiian dancers telling me there were no fresh food in the supermarket because shipping stopped,
Right.
right? And then everybody started growing their own food. And Keala was growing food in her, she lived in Honolulu in a condo and she was growing food in her garage, like a car garage, that barely gets any sun. But she was growing food. And I think in that just when the topics keep going back to racism and systemic design of
Mm,
separation. And then so anyway, so after all these years, 1 year of exploration virtually, when things are opening up, we started doing things like hybrid, and then we got a residency opportunity with Lower Manhattan Cultural Council in the summer. So that they gave us space to basically explore anything we want. And so the company came together. We're like, well, we've been talking about food for a year. So why don't we see what we can do with this? So we started exploring how do we turn all of these food conversations into a performance.
mm,
And through the residency, they had a lot of like open studio opportunities. And then so like every open studio, there would be like 200-300 people that came, because things
wow.
were just newly opening. So everybody was excited to like do anything in person. And so it was really amazing in a way, Edible Tales was created in a very community driven process. The community members that we connected with really told us, like guided us, like what this program should look like, what they want to talk about, what they care about. And then we basically, as artists, we and artistic directors, we just kind of break a look at all the material that we have and then decide, kind of like filmmaking, right? You look at all of the footage that you have, and then you decide, okay, how do we tell a story that makes sense to the audience? So we
Right.
decided, yeah, we started categorizing these conversations into like cultural heritage, because that's food, a representation of culture. And then we started talking about social justice a lot. And in Hawaii specifically, freshwater, water rights keep coming up. And you cannot have food without fresh water.
Mm,
And then even the local EL, like the fish pond, right? You literally realize that interaction between freshwater and seawater. Um,
right.
and all of that disappeared when the land was taken away.
Mhm.
So that was the conversation, and that went into social justice, and then it went to sustainability, right? Because it's like, how do we, if we don't take care of the land, we don't know how to take care of the land, we can't take care of ourselves. And then it goes back to the Native Hawaiian wisdom of that we don't own the land. And I would
Mm,
say this is indigenous wisdom universally, like we don't own the land, we take care of it for this next 7 generations to come.
right.
So all of those conversations got dropped into these 3 topics. And then we got a grant this year from the Hawaii Council for the Humanities to run Edible Tales program monthly at Bye Bye, the new Anu space.
Mm,
And so the Hawaii dancers have funding because we got funding first in New York. And then 2022, we got funding for the Hawaii dancers to start connecting with the Hawaii community. And our dancer, Keala, I keep bringing her up name because she's the key person in Hawaii in Edible Tales that basically, I think through her time on the Mauna, she became very connected with these leaders in the Hawaiian communities who have been really fighting for justice, sustainability, and land, and for their people.
yeah.
So we made a point in Hawaii that we only invited Native Hawaiian land aloha aina workers and also cultural practitioners to come and talk to us about their practices in taking care of the land, in growing food. So yeah, all those like Uncle Scotty Garlo, he's one of them. He's amazing, and he basically we just talk story life for like an hour every month. But it's amazing to learn from all these
Yeah.
elders who have been doing it for ages, and they were there for all these decades, like witnessing how by taking care of land, they're really taking care of each other, the community and the youth. And that's the common thing that keeps happening in all of our monthly conversations with the Hawaii Council for Humanities.
Yeah, that's so
Um,
awesome.
Yeah, so it's really cool. And then so through that, the dancers were able to co-create with the participants for 7 months, and now they are ready to premiere the show that they have created together with the participants on November 20th. And it's gonna be at Key Projects. So and I just found out they have their emu, they're gonna have their Thanksgiving emu ready at Key Projects when we're performing. So it's so cool. So we're gonna be like dancing around the emu. Granted, there's no food gonna be there yet because I was like, we gotta be pono about this. Like, if there's food, I don't know if we should be dancing around this. And also I was like, I don't know if the rocks are gonna, gonna be flying. Right. But thankfully they'll just have the emu prepped, and then there won't be food. So I think it's that alignment, that synergy that happened where when our audience and then the event participants go, they will be able to see what a traditional emu actually looks like. Because I think a lot of people growing up even in Hawaii have never seen it. Like for real kind. Like I know I didn't, like, growing up.
Yeah.
I've seen like the commercial luau kind. But yeah, but so it's really cool to be able, and then the edible tales thing is we're really trying to incorporate our audience like in an immersive way. So when people go there, they'll be guided through, like, there will be like docents, like museum docents. They will guide them through the Key Project space. Each dancer has an installation that's specifically related to a food topic. We're gonna have light music, and then so people can do hands-on activities to really get an experience or get a taste of what Edible Tales is about, and why taking care of the land is so important to us. And then they all go to the pavilion, indoor pavilion, to sit down, have dinner with us, while the dancers will do group performances for them on the stage.
That's awesome. You had a flyer of that or a picture of that? You can share your screen.
Yeah, I do. Oh, I forgot to mention. So the Hawaii Council for Humanity Grants, actually, they funded our oh no, my computer is frozen. Sorry. And they funded the documentary. So all of the conversation that I mentioned, they're going to be made into documentary, like short episodes.
Oh, so you mean the Edible Tales?
Yeah, so there's going to be an Edible Tales docu series.
How many sessions did you guys do?
We have seven monthly activities in
7 in Hawaii or in New York?
in Hawaii, just in Hawaii alone. There's 7, and in New York, because it's 2 years worth of 2 years of research and community conversation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so total like 24 of them,
if you
more 30. Yeah,
and New York.
Yeah, in New York, Hawaii and New York.
That's
But let me share this Edible Tales thing on our website. Can I share screen?
Yeah. Oh, I think. Can she?
Oh, yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Oh.
So this is the Edible Tales page on our website. This is our dancer Chloe in Hawaii. I can share a little bit teaser with you guys. Yeah. This is the New York and Hawaii teaser. Yeah, and then
Where's Key Project?
Yeah, we're gonna be at Key Projects
Where is that?
It's in like a little bit before Waihole. Like if you go past Kaneohe, Temple Valley area, keep driving down.
Is it by Hakipu'u? Where
no, before Hakipu'u.
Oh,
yeah,
before
a
that.
little bit before Hakipu'u, yeah.
I've probably driven past it a million times.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That is so exciting.
Thank you. And then yeah, so and if you go on the website, there's like the creative process is here. And we also recently got a grant to make a mobile app. So all of the conversation and the videos, the archive, it's all on the mobile app right now, and it's free to download. So yeah,
So, can you go back up on your screen so I can see the flyer?
yeah, over here.
Oh, right there.
So this one
Oh,
is the New York
I know where that
one.
is. Why hit it?
Yeah. Our New York premiere is next week, Sunday. And
Ah,
then the Hawaii premiere is a key project on the 20th. Yeah, and then we have a whole Lalea happening on November 18th. That we're showcasing all of the nonprofit that we have worked with throughout the last 2 years for Edible Tales.
in
Uh,
Hawaii?
yeah, in Hawaii, it's in at the Vai space on University. Um, and
Just send me that.
yeah, I will send you all of the flyers and I'll definitely invite you to all of that. I know, again, I'm so bad at promoting our own
No, no,
show.
no. So I can promote it to our students as well. Uh,
Yeah, thank you so
it would
much.
be
Yeah.
great to have them come and observe what you guys are doing because it's such a, like I said earlier, it's not something that you usually associate with dance. And I think that's the whole point is that these are important movements that are and missions that are connecting with movement. And I think that's really uh, a different way of looking at things. Many times we think that if we're going to get involved in the community with our community partners, it's going to look like a fish pond, and it's only because it's a fish pond, um, but not through dance. So I think that this is a really important, different way of looking at the arts and important missions in the community. Uh,
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
and culture,
you
yeah.
know, thank you. Yeah, I think one thing that we definitely took a page from is from hula. I think oftentimes from the Western dance perspective, dance has been so separated from, like, dance is like its own thing on stage,
Right,
right? It tells, and if you look at ballet, it tells like fairy tales, or the
right,
classical ballet, they're fairy tales. And then modern dance started as like an anti-ballet thing, and then there's like that's when feminism and then the story that people start getting more involved. But if you look at indigenous dances, like, like hula, or even when I started learning more about hip hop and then the influences from West African dances of hip hop, and West African dances that are based and rooted in their orishas, in their gods and goddesses. So when I started learning, I was like, oh my God, it's like the hula, like I was
right,
like, it's really the story of the people. Dance cannot be separated from the people, and
right.
it needs to be created for the people and with the people. And I think that's, at least that's our philosophy, and that's what we really enjoyed about Edible Tales, because for a long time our company was creating, like, I'm the artistic director, there's a choreographer, the choreographer is going to make up a dance, everybody learn, and you do the same thing. And then as we started talking more about authenticity, expression, um in hip hop, because we're also rooted in hip hop dance. We also do contemporary, modern, and all that, but like hip hop and I want to say, I wouldn't, not hula, but Hawaiian values. It's they are the two main, I think, driving forces and guides for how our company functions. And I think both of them are very much like people focused, community focused. Hip hop has more of a focus on the freedom of expression.
Mm.
And so we always say, do you do you? You be your authentic
You're right.
self. Like, don't be afraid to be yourself, right? Show what you got. Our dancers are all from different backgrounds, different dance styles, but they're able to come together to tell very amazing stories. And then with hula, what we really learned is that you can't separate the dance from the land. You cannot separate the dance from the people. It tells the story of the land and the people and the generations before you and after you. So we definitely like took a page from that, and we're hoping, that the work that we're creating moving forward can also have significant impact, even, generations from now.
Right. Yeah. It's such a different way of us looking
Yeah.
at this. So I think that's really, really refreshing. It's very refreshing and very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's gonna be food, so it's gonna be yummy.
And then there's food. I mean, hello, edible.
Yeah,
Very,
yeah,
very important. Very important.
yeah. So
And
we're getting Hawaiian food from Waikole Poi Factory. Um, so
yum.
yeah, they're right down the street from Key Project, so it's gonna be
Right,
so
right.
yummy. Um,
That's cool.
yeah, so yeah, and then oh yeah, the events are oh, the one in New York is free because we got a little more funding. And the one in Hawaii is pay what you can.
Ah,
So even if you don't only do $1, that's $1,
right,
suggesting $15, but it's really is pay what you can. We want people to be able to come and
right.
get connected with the land, connect with the community, and dance a little bit with us.
Oh, you will have a hard time stopping my kids from being up there. So at least I think they're entering the teen years. So
Oh
you
yeah.
never know. They might go into the no, I don't want to. No, no, gotta look cool. Kamalu's entering that. So
Oh man, but we're cool. I think we're cool. I don't know.
you are cool. So that's really, really
I also
fortunate.
think cool people don't say they're cool. So yeah, anyways.
Oh, true.
Okay, I'm gonna
Oh,
stop
wow.
here.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. I'm glad you shared your website as well, so that people can look it up if they want to and see those flyers, which I will send out to WCC
Yeah,
faculty
thank
and
you.
staff.
Yeah, I'll send all the flyers and information to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, goodness, talk about I feel like I went on a journey through so many different parts of your life that have been able to connect to so many different missions, and you're dancing the whole way.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
It's awesome. It's definitely been a blessing. And then I think, like you said, the missions kind of just chose us, like it's and depends on who's on the canoe, who's paddling, it kind of determines where we're going. And it's
Like
really
that.
cool that, yeah, it's really cool that it's like people take turns being leaders in the company, having
Yeah.
voices heard. So I really like that. I enjoy that. Um, my picture in the back so we're going to talk about February, a magic moment that doesn't stop. So I think Noe already knows this. So we were at Hakipu'u Beach Park and we learned a mele about Hakipu'u. And it was written by Uncle Calvin Ho. And then the kumu that taught us was Auntie Mary Kupao. Um, so I did not make the connections. I think that week I was just so overly tired and trauma, the healing from trauma.
So
um,
true. It was
yeah,
so
and
overwhelming and so deep, and
yeah,
it sometimes takes a while to digest, but yeah.
yeah, like we're so in the moment. It was like 12-hour days, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. And then for us, like the DU people, like after the whole day, we gotta go back and do work because we gotta get ready for the next day for you guys. So
Right. It
so
was
anyway, that didn't
longer
get
for you
good.
guys.
Yeah, but it was such a beautiful experience.
Yeah,
Um,
what?
yeah, so the next day after our retreat was over, it was a huge hip hop b-boy battle. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop by. I haven't seen the b-boys for a while. I ran into my first breakdancing teacher, I Rock Kupao. It's Kumu Mary's
Oh,
cousin.
oh my goodness.
And he's like, hey, I saw you on my cousin's like Facebook or something. I was like, what? Who's your cousin? It's like, Mary. I was like, Mary who? And then I mean, I know Kupao,
You're
Kupao. I
picturing a
should have
hip
a
hop
connection,
person. Like she wasn't a hip hop person, though.
Yeah. So yeah, and then turned out, he also has had Kuleana land in Waihole Valley. And then more amazingness. So the Uncle Calvin Ho, he composed the mele about like for the kula that we learned at Hakipu'u. Um, so I came back to the East Coast. And then I think it was April or something like that. I went back to Hawaii for DU stuff. And this is when my friend Tao from Tao Dance Theater. So Tao is like has been
Yeah.
my idol since I was a teenager, you know. So like growing up, I was like, I want to dance for Tao. So Tao was like, hey, I'm gonna go talk to Uncle Calvin about making cake. I was like, cool, yeah. And then he's like, you want to come? I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, you know, I like Tao is so hard to like. He never has
Pin
time.
down, I know. He's amazing.
Yeah, so I was like,
Busy.
anything Tao tells me to do, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
So I went with him. I was like sitting there talking to Uncle Calvin Ho, and he's like, you know, talking about Auntie Nona Beamer and all of the I was like, this guy knows like everything and everybody. Still didn't make the connection. That's the Uncle Cal. And I've heard Ali talk about because he founded Hakipu'u Learning Center that
Right.
Ali's kids went to. And one of
Right.
her, well, and actually all of her kids have danced with DU. So I've
Oh,
heard about Uncle Calvin Ho for basically like 11 years. And then and there I was sitting with him and Tao making like helping them make like okay. And then so I went to hula that night with Ali. So we had to share, right? And then I was like, oh, this is what I did today. And then Ali's like, do you realize that was Uncle Calvin Ho? I was like, oh. But anyway, so the bamboos in the back that I was holding is they're gifts from Uncle Cal. So see,
awesome.
he's gonna hold a 4 hour show in Hawaii, and he's gifting us all these instruments
Oh,
and still
cool.
being also a key part of Dancers Unlimited as well. So just like going back to like February and how like important I feel like why did I bring this up? I have a point. Sorry. Oh yeah, by being connected with the land, I feel like the land and all the mana and the ancestors, you know, in our collective mana, kind of just help us connect with each other, and that's
Yeah.
how identity and resilience are formed.
Right. Yeah. And those pilina are what basically drives everything.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it is amazing. Um, Calvin Ho's son, Liko,
Mm-hmm.
was at WCC for a million years teaching Hawaiian stuff.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his daughter goes to school with Wailea. Is the same age as Wailea at
Oh yeah,
Kamehameha.
yeah, yeah. I was wondering
Yeah.
about that.
And they got into Kamehameha together at the same year,
Okay.
fourth
Yeah,
grade.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
because
so,
they were saying she just graduated too, and she's
yeah,
art
same
school
age.
somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. She's an amazing artist,
Yeah. Yeah.
Miley.
So,
So anyway, yes, Pilina. Pilina is
yeah,
always at the
definitely.
core of everything.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to connections in Hawaii, um, and everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
It's your life journey really is connected through Pilina. And I think you just shared a really good example with your life and the Pilina that happened to you over and over and over and over again that led you into your, I guess, in and out kind of movement with missions and dances and um, all kinds of issues that you've come up to in your journey through life. You've been able to connect to Dancers Unlimited and dancing, and that's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've definitely been there. You and your entire family, I feel like you guys have been there since we were
And we
like,
keep popping in on your journey.
you know.
And
I still
there we are
remember.
again. And there's
Yeah.
Auntie Linda again.
I
Yeah.
know. I watch your kids like grow up.
Yes, for
So,
sure. They
yeah.
keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
cool. My
crazy.
dancers still talk about like when the New Yorkers went for the
Yes.
10th anniversary when we performed at Fringe. The
Yeah.
day before, I think we did a cipher in Chinatown. Like we had just landed, we went straight to a Chinatown cipher, and Kaimalu jumped in,
Yeah.
and then he performed with us for
Yeah.
our anniversary show at the Fringe. So they still remember him, and they still talk
Yes.
a lot.
They'll
Yeah,
be shocked by how big he is when they see him again.
yeah.
Because he's just like a young man now. So
Wow.
definitely. If you look at Misa's website, that picture is across the top. If you check out I think it's
Okay.
misatupo.com.
Okay.
It is that picture with Kamalua and everybody dancing. It's the
Wow.
same time in
Cool.
Chinatown on the street, on the street.
Yeah, it was on the street. And
Yeah.
I love that he just jumped in. He's
Yes.
like
No
fearless.
fear. No
Yeah.
fear, no shame. That's Kamalu for sure.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
this has been wonderful. MJ, I'm glad that you were able to jump back in and out. So you were able to hear bits and pieces. But what's fabulous about this is that it's recorded and it can be referred to later. So those who couldn't make it will be able to look at it. So
Yeah, yeah.
thank you for coming
Thank
today and talking
you.
story with me. I feel like you're here in Hawaii, but you're not. You keep like going in and out. It's so funny. I'm like, is she here or is she there? Is she here? So
Yeah,
it's
right.
awesome
Like,
to
thank
be able
you
to
to
fly
friends
back.
with buddy passes on the airlines.
Yes.
Like, please keep your job.
Yes. Do not quit. I need
I
you.
know. I had like two really good friends. They worked for Hawaiian for a long time. So it was really easy for me to get on the standby thing because they had seniority. And then they
That's
both quit.
awesome.
So,
Yay.
they both quit. So now I don't have seniority
Oh
anymore.
no.
So I still have buddy passes. I just have to like cross my finger harder. But yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we'll call it a day. I think we're like almost at 3 o'clock. I thank you for your time. Um, David or MJ.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Really, it was really nice to
Okay.
listen.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing tech for us.
Yes. And listen and enjoying.
Listening,
Um,
yeah.
MJ, do you have any questions before we run away? No, maybe not. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're listening in. I guess we'll say goodbye. And thank you so much for chatting today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.